Treatment of women by the Taliban has been highly controversial. During its 1996 to 2001 rule in Afghanistan, the Taliban was considered notorious internationally for its misogyny and violence against women. Its stated motive was to create a secure environment where the chasteness and dignity of women may once again be sacrosanct, reportedly based on Pashtunwali beliefs about living in purdah. Since the Taliban seized most of Afghanistan in 2021, there are many concerns. Women in Afghanistan were forced to wear the burqa at all times in public. Because, according to one Taliban spokesman, the face of a woman is a source of corruption, for men not related to them. In a systematic segregation sometimes referred to as gender apartheid, women were not allowed to work. They were not allowed to be educated after the age of 8. And until then were permitted only to study the Quran. 165 women seeking an education were forced to attend underground schools, where they and their teachers risked execution if caught. They were not allowed to be treated by male doctors unless accompanied by a male chaperone, which led to illnesses remaining untreated. They faced public flogging and execution for violations of the Taliban's laws. 1231 to 32 The Taliban allowed and in some cases encouraged marriage for girls under the age of 16. Amnesty International reported that 80% of Afghan marriages were forced. From the age of 8 onward, girls in Afghanistan were not allowed to be in direct contact with males other than a close blood relative, husband, or in-law. Other restrictions for women were: the Taliban rulings regarding public conduct placed severe restrictions on a woman's freedom of movement and created difficulties for those who could not afford a burqa or did not have any mahram. These women faced virtual house arrest. A woman who was badly beaten by the Taliban for walking the streets alone stated, "My father was killed in battle. I have no husband, no brother, no son. How am I to live if I can't go out alone?" A field worker for the NGO Tere De Om witnessed the impact on female mobility at Kabul's largest state-run orphanage, Taskiya Muskan, after the female staff was relieved of their duties. The approximately 400 girls living at the institution were locked inside for a year without being allowed outside for recreation. Decrees that affected women's mobility were: the lives of rural women were less dramatically affected as they generally lived and worked within secure kin environments. A relative level of freedom was necessary for them to continue with their chores or labor. If these women traveled to a nearby town, the same urban restrictions would have applied to them. The Taliban disagreed with past Afghan statutes that allowed the employment of Afghan women in a mixed-sex workplace. The claim was that this was a breach of purdah and Sharia law. On September 30, 1996, the Taliban decreed that all women should be banned from employment. It is estimated that 25% of government employees were female. And when compounded by losses in other sectors, many thousands of women were affected. Another loss was for those whom the employed women served. Elementary education of all children, not just girls, was shut down in Kabul, where virtually all of the elementary school teachers were women. Thousands of educated families fled Kabul for Pakistan after the Taliban took the city in 1996. 106 Taliban Supreme Leader Muhammad Omar assured female civil servants and teachers they would still receive wages of around $5 per month. Although this was a short-term offering, a Taliban representative stated, the Taliban's act of giving monthly salaries to 30,000 job-free women, now sitting comfortably at home, is a whiplash in the face of those who are defaming Taliban with reference to the rights of women. These people through baseless propaganda are trying to incite the women of Kabul against the Taliban. The Taliban promoted the use of the extended family, or zakat system of charity to ensure women should not need to work. However, years of conflict meant that nuclear families often struggled to support themselves, let alone aid additional relatives. Qualification for legislation often rested on men, such as food aid, which had to be collected by a male relative. The possibility that a woman may not possess any living male relatives was dismissed by Mullah Ghus. the acting foreign minister, who said he was surprised at the degree of international attention and concern for such a small percentage of the Afghan population. A Physicians for Human Rights researcher that traveled to Kabul in 1998 described a city of beggars filled with women who had once been teachers and nurses now moving in the streets like ghosts under their enveloping burqas, selling every possession and begging so as to feed their children. 3 female health professionals were exempted from the employment ban, yet they operated in much